The pillows are fluff thanks to Miss Emily. The couch is wide enough, join the family. It's all love while we laugh at Perp's criminalities. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup at hey, hey, hey. Come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. Oh, please, the puppies need me. Ooh, oh, please, my body is rejecting none of that fancy credential stuff. I'm just here for the cringe binge. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup and hey, hey, hey. Come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. Oh please, the puppies need me. Oh please, my body is rejecting none of that fancy credentialed stuff. I'm just here for the cringe binge. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup that hey, hey, hey. Come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.
Hello, Sofa Squad. Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing? What is everybody doing? How is everybody today on this lovely, lovely Wednesday? Drop a number one if you can hear me in the comment section. Please. Thank you, Vicky. Vicky's always coming in strong with those ones right away. I do appreciate it. I hope y'all are doing well. Welcome the mods to the sofa. They always keep things nice and fluffy and the cushions all fluffed and the pillows all done. I do love y'all and appreciate it. And hello, Sofa Squad. We meet again. I hope everybody's doing well. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Peace. Hey, Deb. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Vicky. Megan, what's up? Sherry, Sadie, Grateful. How's everybody doing? So, y'all. Hey, Sandy. It's good seeing you. Pardon me. So, a couple of things that we're going to do. Hey, Shayna. We are going to read the updates real quick because at 7:30, that little, video that he does to update that way is going to come out. And so I want to read our little updates before he does that. Oh, thank you, Peachy. I appreciate that. And so that's what we're going to do. So that being said, so I recorded the Sarah. So side note, this little thing on the screen up here is trying it out as a QR code to today's video on the main channel. It should be at least. And then I recorded the Sarah Boone bad lip reading today, and yeah, there's that. So this should be, hey Cuff, how's it going? Yeah, this should be interesting to see what happened today. So I just want to go ahead and jump into it because in case it's long, it looked like a kind of in-depth little update they did. So we're going to read through it, and at 7:30 we'll jump over and see what he says. And now I just have to find the article. There it is. Okay, please hold. So 9 a.m. they're back in court for day 3. And again, if you're new to this, this is the Sarah Hartsfield trial. And here we go. So 9:07. Defense attorney case. Wait, let me read it over. Defense attorney Case Darwin continues cross-exam with Jenny Hartsfield. Testimony from Joseph's sister Jenny continued Wednesday as defense attorney Case Darwin continued his cross-examination. Much of the questioning focused on Jenny's past statements to law enforcement and her beliefs about Sarah Hartsfield's role in her brother's death. Darwin asked Jenny to read portions of a document related to Sarah's self-defense shooting of her former fiance, David Bragg. Jenny testified that Sarah told her she had killed a man in self-defense. So this is all up there in this case. This jury is hearing that she has killed yet another person. Okay. I don't care, self-defense, whatever. They're hearing that she has killed another person. Darwin also pressed Jenny on whether she had accused Sarah of killing Joseph directly. She clarified, I did not accuse Sarah of killing Joe, but said she did express concern to an officer that Sarah had killed her brother. Again, never mind. I thought she was talking about Sarah killing her brother from her youth, but she's talking about her brother. Never mind. I read that wrong. Jenny Jeannie said an officer first called her cell phone before meeting her at the hospital on January 7th, 2023, where about 10 family members had gathered. The defense introduced several exhibits, including Jeannie's past statements and a letter from Douglas County prosecutors declining charges against Sarah and the 2018 shooting of Bragg. Jeannie said she only knew what Sarah had told her about that incident and about a separate FBI investigation. She acknowledged she was concerned about Joseph's death, but said concern is concern, not an accusation. Prosecutors returned on redirect and asked Jeannie about her final conversations with Joseph. She testified that when Joseph came home December 28, 2022, he told her he was worried Sarah would, quote, kill him in his sleep, end quote. She said she tried to convince him not to go back, but Joseph insisted he had to return to work. Jeannie was emotional as she described these moments, telling jurors she was terrified for her brother and that her worst fears came true. Throughout her testimony, she admitted she didn't know exactly how Joseph died, but said she believes Sarah let him lay there to die. She told the jury she and Sarah once had World War III on the phone, and while she loved Sarah to death in the beginning, by the time Joseph was hospitalized, she hated her. She also explained that Sarah kept the family from Joseph's funeral, forcing them to hold a separate service without his body. So again, just real quick, jury is hearing about right, wrong, or indifferent, doesn't matter, another death, another murder. Thanks, PGH Deb, for becoming a member. I appreciate that. They're hearing about another death, another murder. They're also hearing that, yeah, he was saying he was afraid he was going to die in his sleep. They're hearing that, yeah, we liked her at first, but we hated her. And then we're also hearing, huge, she wouldn't let us have a funeral. We had to do this and that. Right now, I know that doesn't mean that proved whatever. But this is going to be one of those trials, in my opinion, one of those cases where everything is like you're going to have to take the whole big picture, right? Hey, Casey, how's it going? I know I got to watch that body cam footage too. Shannon sent it to me earlier. I hear it's just lovely. Okay, let's keep going. So 9:52, the third witness is Olivia Hardy, the dispatch supervisor in Chambers County, called to the stand. Pardon me. Olivia is the dispatch supervisor for Chambers County Sheriff's Office. She explained that dispatchers take both emergency and non-emergency calls and route them appropriately to EMS or law enforcement. Jurors then heard the 911 call. I would have given good money to hear this. The 911 call Sarah Hartsfield made on January 7th, 2023. In the recording played at 9:57 a.m., Sarah's voice sounded calm as she told the dispatcher, "I need help. My husband is breathing, but he's not responding. I can't get him to wake up." She gave her address, gate code, and Joseph's age before adding, He's breathing really heavy, but I'm trying to wake him up. It's like he's not there." Sarah could be heard crying and struggling to speak, saying her name through tears. "Sarah, okay. Hardy testified that she has taken many calls involving diabetics and said it is not normal for those calls to end in death. In my experience, the crew on the ambulance is able to treat the diabetic. She told jurors, prosecutors asked if it was normal for someone to delay calling 911 in situations like Joseph's. Hardy said no. 10:01 a.m., the witness was excused before the court took a break. And then at 10:19 a.m. And real quick before I forget this, so like I can remember my my stepdad going into a diabetic, so he has diabetes, a diabetic situation. My mom calling me to come up, and I mean you can tell like they're not like he's talking crazy and like doing weird. It's like they're malfunctioning. You know what I'm saying? Like he was still able to talk and do, but they were doing that weird stuff. And yeah, 911 gets there. We're giving him his case. He had just accidentally, like, let his stuff get low. So it's like all the stuff was there, the, glucose, whatever. And they got there and they, hung around until he came through. But it's how I imagine probably a normal diabetic situation going where she's saying they don't usually end up in death. So, Hold on, let me find you. Okay, here you go. Okay, so 10:19 a.m. John Knight, a pediatrician at Kelsey Saybold in Huntsville, was called as the fourth witness. Dr. John, an internist and pediatrician at Kelsey and Huntsville, treated Joseph for several years. Dr. Knight, who graduated from UT Houston Medical School in '92 and has practiced for nearly 3 decades, told jurors he began treating Hartsfield in 2016 and continued as his doctor until 2022. He said that Joseph had type 1 diabetes, which meant his pancreas could not produce insulin, and he needed the hormone regularly to regulate his blood sugar. He explained that Joseph was capable of administering his own insulin and had his way of treating his diabetes, though his blood sugar was never well controlled. According to Knight, Joseph often had high blood sugar, suffered from conditions like high blood pressure and erectile dysfunction, and was hospitalized several times for diabetic ketoacidosis, DKA, a serious complication caused by dangerously high blood sugar. The doctor said that low blood sugar or hypoglycemia is not something that typically results in death for his patients. In fact, he testified Joseph was the first patient he ever had treated who died from low blood sugar. Knight said he was surprised to learn Joseph's cause of death, given his history of consistently elevated glucose levels. He explained that patients experiencing low blood sugar usually respond quickly to interventions like candy, soda, or glucose tablets. That's how my stepdad is. And most are not even hospitalized for their episodes. During cross-exam, defense pressed Knight on the differences between type 1 and 2 diabetes, pardon me, as well as how insulin therapy works. He confirmed that Joseph's A1C levels, a long-term marker of blood sugar, were very high, averaging around 10 to 10.5%, which he described as very controlled. Knight also noted that while insulin pumps are often recommended for convenience and control, Joseph had stopped using one before becoming his patient. The doctor described diabetes as a serious lifelong condition requiring strict monitoring, diet planning, and teamwork among medical professionals. Okay, so then they went to lunch. And then they came back from lunch. Okay, so at 1 o'clock, medical records show that Joseph was hospitalized multiple times with DKA. On October 11, 2018, he was admitted to the regional health center and diagnosed with DKA. A report noted that, quote, patient reports only taking short-term insulin but not taking long-term insulin, it appears. The document also cited medication non-compliance. Joseph was discharged the next day. Hospital records from March 20th, 2022 and June 9th to the 12th, 2022 showed another hospitalization for DKA. At Houston Methodist, his blood sugar reached 488 with an A1C of 11%. Records stated Joseph admitted to checking his glucose level sporadically and not following a set regimen. He also denied owning any durable medical equipment or home oxygen. Dr. Knight testified he first treated Joseph in August of 2016, prescribing a fairly high dose of long-term insulin, 30 units in the morning, 50 in the evening. Dr. Knight described it as a fairly high dose, especially for type 1. He said splitting the dose might allow better absorption, but it carried no more risk than single-day dosing. Knight last saw Joseph in March of 2022. Following gallbladder surgery, a June 2022 document stated no PCP. The court also saw Defense Exhibit 2, medical records from Brooke Army Medical Center, documenting Sarah Hartsfield's hospitalizations from December 26 through 28, 2022 for complications from a breast implant infection. She was discharged on several medications, including hydrocodone, diazepam, gabapentin, doxycycline, clindamycin, and others. My gosh. The doctor explained hydrocodone and Valium can cause drowsiness. Gabapentin is used for nerve pain. Hold on. I'm sorry. The reading makes me tired. Is used for nerve pain and also calls for drowsiness. And Benadryl equivalent medications may have sedative effects as well. On redirect, prosecutor Mallory Vargas asked about glucagon, a life-saving medication for diabetics in crisis. The doctor told jurors he would be surprised if glucagon wasn't administered by a person highly involved in medical care. He added that while medications may be prescribed, there's no knowledge if they were actually on that medicine unless there was a screening through urine. The witness was excused but could be recalled later. Okay, please hold. Please hold. Your call is important to us. Please hold. Okay, where we go? Pardon me. Okay, so 201. The state calls the fifth witness to the stand, another doctor, an endocrinologist. Dr. Inuku, an expert in endocrinology who specializes in diabetes, thyroid, bone health, anything involving hormones, testified about her former patient, Joseph. She said she first started seeing him in 2022 and she saw Joseph 4 times. She described Joseph as having uncontrolled type 1 diabetes, noting that the term juvenile diabetes isn't used anymore. According to Dr. Inuku, Joseph struggled with insulin. He wasn't compliant with prescribed insulin doses. Joseph had anxiety about hypoglycemia. Joseph would always do less or skip it. Now, pause real quick. This is going to, in my opinion, even though I do think that there's a lot working against the defendant, this kind of stuff is definitely something that the defense is going to try and harp on, because if they can sit here and be like, see, you've got even his doctors up here saying he's not compliant, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that, blah, 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 blah. Now on that flip side, hey Chrissy, it's good seeing you. On that flip side, he is it also isn't looking good where they're just like, yeah, she called, she was calm. This isn't normal that for these things to end this way. You know, this is kind of an abnormal death here. It usually doesn't work this way. People are usually revived by the medical care people. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of either way to me right now, but it's very fresh. Anyways, let's keep going. So Dr. Inuku said that Sarah joined Joseph for a virtual visit and later followed up with her. Quote, Sarah called me after the visit. Sarah provided me with information that Joseph was taking way less insulin than what he told me, end quote. Joseph used injection pens for insulin. He refused the pump, thinking it would cause more hypoglycemia. Though during their last visit, Joseph agreed to try it, but the pharmacy never shipped it and JH didn't fill that prescription. Dr. Inuku described Joseph's Dexcom settings. Dexcom alerts if sugar is below 70. It's called low sugar. When it's below 55, it's urgent low, and the alarm goes off repeatedly and loudly. But Joseph set his low to 100. Let me scroll down. Which she said indicated Joseph was scared to drop. Not usual for patients to do that. The state's Exhibit 20 was another key piece of evidence, the doctor's own note. Sarah called 1-11-23. Joseph admitted to hospital for hypoglycemia and doesn't know if Joseph woke up for the alarm. Sarah said he was unresponsive. EMS gave IV, but Joseph didn't wake up. Currently in ICU, intubated for 6 days. Sarah said Joseph doesn't follow instructions. According to her note, Sarah also said major stroke or heart attack, doesn't know if Joseph will make it. Interesting. Okay, so at 3:40, they took a 15-minute break. At 4 o'clock, the court back in session with Dr. Inuku returns to the stand. Continuing, the doctor testified about the Dexcom device, explaining it can have sensor failures, signal loss, and technical issues because it works via Bluetooth. She said if it's reading, it's accurate. If it's not reading, it wouldn't show in the report. Dr. Inuku admitted that she is not aware of recalls to Dexcom and couldn't explain, quote, how the alert sound doesn't work if volume is down on the phone, end quote. She called it, quote, dangerous to inject fast-acting insulin after dinner, end quote. Okay. Medical records showed Joseph received, quote, 3 amps of glucose and continuous glucose in hospital, end quote, which the doctor said meant Joseph had a big but unknown amount of insulin. Dr. Inuku testified, I don't believe Joseph would have given that amount of insulin to himself because Joseph is always careful. She also told jurors if a Dexcom alert was going off for hours, it would have alerted a conscious person. Bingo. Those two things right there. He might have been scared. He might have been this, that, the other, but it works in his favor too. She's saying, he was so petrified of this, then why on earth would you go over? And that alert thing, especially if you're familiar with it. No. Not gonna, nope. Okay, anyways, when questioned further, Dr. Nukas said that she did not know, quote, if Joseph was receiving sound or if his phone was off, but maintained that, quote, signal loss doesn't occur because data shows in the report, end quote. So it was going off. Nobody can prove except for him. Obviously, sadly, he's not here anymore. Or Sarah. Obviously, she's here. Okay. 411, 6 witness called to the stand. Jack Terry, a paramedic. Oh, this should be good. Hold on. Oh, wait, I forgot, y'all. Hold on. Let me refresh. I was like, where'd it go? I was like, there's nothing here. Please hold. Okay, here we go. They updated it. I opened this earlier. I was like, wait. Okay. So the paramedic testified that he's worked in the field since 98, over 25 years experience, and has been with Allegiance in Woodville, Texas for 3 years. He previously worked for Chambers County EMS and responded to Sarah and Joseph's home. He admitted he has a hard time remembering the call, but said that his report shows he was treating Joseph on January 7th, 23. He recalled responding to an unconscious person and treating Joseph for hypoglycemia before transporting him to the hospital. According to his notes, Joseph, quote, responded slightly, but never woke up and responded completely, end quote, to the treatment. He explained that diabetics with low blood sugar are usually treated with glucose and said, quote, I get low sugar calls often, end quote. He added that most patients respond to treatment before leaving the house, though some still require transport to hospital, many do not. On that day, he gave Joseph, quote, a 250cc bag of D10 and 25 grams of D50, end quote, describing it as a little more than normal. He testified he, quote, would have expected Joseph to respond to that, end quote. When Joseph arrived at the hospital, his blood sugar was 22 to 25, which he described as very low, but not that uncommon. The paramedic also testified that he has no knowledge of a patient dying from low blood sugar and said these types of calls were very common in his career. He recalled speaking to Sarah at the scene, who told him Joseph had last been seen the night before. He said he did not document insulin pens in the home and was not sure if he entered the house. On cross-exam, the defense noted the paramedic only remembered what was in his report. The witness was excused after only a few minutes on the stand. 4:21 p.m. Seventh witness, Karen Lee Gross, a registered nurse, called to the stand. An RN at Houston Methodist testified that she's worked there for 3 years with previous experience at Memorial Hermann and St. Luke's. On January 7th, she was 2 months into her role in the emergency department at Houston Methodist when Joseph was brought in mid-afternoon by EMS. She said the only report they received was a, quote, unresponsive patient that was hypoglycemic, end quote. According to Lee Gross' testimony, Joseph wasn't responding to any of the treatment. She explained that he was not responsive enough to take anything by mouth and had to be given treatment by IV. Lee Gross said, hold on one second, please hold on. Sorry. Lee Gross said Joseph's blood sugar would go up a little bit and then fall again, which caused her concern. She testified, quote, the treatment should cause levels to go up and usually stay because it's pretty much sugar water. Instead, staff had to keep checking his glucose because it continued to decline. She said she started questioning herself, asking, what am I missing? What am I not doing correctly? She told jurors she felt something was counteracting the sugar water they were giving Joseph. She consulted with the doctor, and Joseph was placed on a higher protocol with a bag of sugar water. Lee Gross testified that she had never had a patient not respond like Joseph did and called it very unusual for her, making her question if she was doing anything wrong. She also noted she's never had a patient die from low blood sugar. On cross-exam, the defense pointed out that the hospital would have documented any benzodiazepines. When asked if she said who, how, when, or where the insulin was administered to Joseph, she responded, no, sir, to all those questions. On redirect, the prosecutor emphasized that it was very concerning that Joseph's glucose was that low for that long, 20 hours. 4:38, the court was excused for the day. I guess that's it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to wait for the guy to go live. Hopefully we'll be going live here in a minute. Please hold. 5 minutes, they'll take a couple. Okay, they'll take just a little bit. They'll take just a little bit, a little bit. Oh, thank you, Emily, for gifting 5 memberships. So here's the thing, y'all. This is going back and forth because you hear them talking, like all these medical professionals, and this is what I'm kind of piecing this together more and more. So from what I understand so far, and we're going to kind of go through this out loud so we can all grasp it together. So basically, they're like, yeah, you know what? He allegedly had this low blood sugar. Well, I mean, he did, obviously, right? But it was abnormal. There's all these empty pens and insulin pens that nobody can prove who did what or whatever. We just know that there was like 10 of them near his body. So it would appear that she overdosed. This is just, y'all help me out here. It would appear that she overdosed him on these pens. And that's why he was never able to stabilize because of the severe crash. And that's why at the hospital, they're like, what's going on? What's going on? It shows it being low. And it was probably not helping whatsoever. Like, I mean, I don't know what you do when it's extra, but because they can't really prove any of this, it's this gray zone of having to almost like circumstantial, almost having to be like, look, we can't say that so and so was in the kitchen with in the billiards room with the pipe and killed the maid. We have to kind of piece all the puzzle together. So hearing the medical professionals, oh, thanks Arrow for becoming a member. Hey, I'll see. So hearing all these medical professionals sit here and say, this is abnormal, this isn't right, blah, 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 blah. People should come back from this. People don't die from this. Most of the time, people don't even get transported to the hospital. So what are we missing? What's counteracting? What's going on? That speaks volumes to me. And again, they're going to have to ask the jury in all this, you're going to have to put the pieces of the puzzle together, right? Now, also, and let me take a sip of this. Hold on. Also, sorry, okay, you're on. The jury is also hearing, there's this whole self-defense thing with her former fiance, yada yada yada. Oh, thank you, Chrissy. Chrissy says Paul's going to apologize for it's not because they don't want to be here. Been raised going up in October. I'm surgery. Oh God, Chrissy, I'm so sorry to. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you're having surgery or doing something to get whatever you got to do. But I'm sorry you're going through that. Oh my gosh, and you don't have to apologize for not being here. I mean, we love seeing you, but it's we're not thinking that you're being mean. You do what you got to do, girl. I hope you're doing well. I hope the weather is at least nice up there for you. And thank you very much. Thank you for being here. And I hope the surgery goes well. Keep us updated. So, okay, that's what it was. Never mind. Something just got at the front door. I kept wondering when my phone was going off. Oh, thanks for being a member for 13 months, Avery. I do appreciate it. Oh, yeah, thanks. So I don't know if y'all can see. Well, let me do this. See those lights right there? That's what, wait. See these and that. So those are going along the floor. I was working more on it here. You can't really see. I can have the bottom done like that so it shines up in the blue wall, and then the purple lights in the back. And then taking the book stuff down, just hanging stuff on the wall. It's a slow process. But thank you. So they're hearing that there's this other murder, self-defense, whatever. No, it's just like Michael Peterson when they were like, wait, this other woman died on a staircase too? What? There's 2 women that died on staircases with you? I mean, sure, lightning can strike twice, but this is really weird, And so here you go with this. I just hope that it's enough because let's look at the other side of the fence. Let's look at the other side of the fence from the defense. They're like, she was on all these, pain meds herself. The doctors are sitting here, and like, I'm kind of talking out loud for them. They're like, the doctors were sitting here. They've all said he was non-compliant. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. He wasn't checking up on it. Blah, 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 blah. She was passed out in the other room. She didn't hear that. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't know that, he was having a moment and not thinking clearly and kept injecting himself. Maybe, we don't know. She wasn't there, and then when she came to, she was in shock. She was in this, she called 911. It's a far reach because I think that, we don't know. I shouldn't say that. Spidey senses would say red flag situation would say, you know, huh? Right? You know, no, no. And then the weird behavior, I pray they show that video of her hanging all over him with a Facebook post. Hold on, I'm gonna mute you. Yeah, Cuff. So she is associated. So her brother died when they were younger. Personally, I think she killed him. Then there was, and y'all help me out here. It was the wife of a former of an ex or something that she tried to do something, send someone to kill, or there was like a possible hit taken out on somebody. And Big Red says, "Yeah, agree. I think the jury has common sense." So yeah, it's. I mean, this is one of those of like common sense will tell you, right? Um, and wait, hold on, Cal, what'd you say? Hold on one second. I've been on major payments and would not have been too out of. Amen, right? Yeah, that's just like her little. I mean, I agree. And then 2, so then here's the other thing too, back on, like, the common sense stuff like that. When you start hearing about, "Yes, she wouldn't let us come to the funeral, we had to have a separate one without his body. Yeah, she wouldn't let us in the room with him during the hospital." People see that as like a, "What? She did huh?" And you start to see how evil, and then you factor in okay, you factor in, what do you call it? I forgot what I was saying. Trying to fix my chair. And yeah, Carol, you're right too. Because as except the jury has to go by law, not common sense. Yeah. I mean, that's it. That's where it gets tricky. Because it's like if they're not able to sit here and prove, like, bam. Again, I'll use this as an example recently. The bump. You know what I'm saying? Like common sense, the Donna Adelson thing would be like, oh, please, they're also guilty, right? Like totally obvious. But then Donna Adelson trial had the bump. You know, it was hard evidence. You know, of bam, this is here you go. This case is going to need a smoking gun, right? Beyond if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. Leslie says, context though, we in Texas, right? I know, right? So we'll see. Let me switch to the screen real quick and see what's going on here. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna do this. Please hold. I said, please hold. I said, please hold. I said, shooba dooba 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 doo. We're just gonna kind of wait for this to come up, and then when it does, obviously we'll listen to it and talk. Yeah, I guess common sense would have put Wendy in prison already. Yeah, I know, right? Long sense. Long sense. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of this. It's going to be a kind of tedious trial. And again, just a little bit, we're obviously just seeing the highlights. We're just hearing the stuff, a completely different vibe in court. This would definitely be one where you would want to see what is she, the defendant, Sarah, what is she acting like in court? What is she responding to on the evidence? Just like, you know, pardon me, when we see Donna Adelson, again, I'm just going to use that as an example, crying over seeing a little bit of Dan Markel's autopsy, and she's up there crying for so long that you're like, this doesn't match, right? Something's weird here. We're missing out on that is what I'm getting at with this. So I would want to know those kind of things. I would love to know what, you know, what the jury's obviously not thinking, but like, how are they looking at her? How are they doing this? How are they doing that? All of that type of stuff. What is their reaction to her? You know, did she wear jewelry today? There's little stuff like that. to me, it makes a difference. I think juries pick up on that. Yeah, Megan says, how much jewelry does she wear today? I mean, seriously. Seriously. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, so what was the thing about I'm just reading your comments. Remind me again, did she try and set a house on fire, or is that something different? Because if we got that going on too, then I mean, come on, right? All those jewels can't make you look at your wearing that you make it. They're a mess. We can't watch a trial. I said they didn't. We are. Ginger says that's what I'm saying. There's nuances that are missed when we can't watch a trial live. It's like they don't even know who we are. The Sofa Squad jury, I know, right? There's 2 fires. Okay, wow. Arson. Well, there's a missing like serial. So, wow, if it's true too. I mean, she's got a lot going on, y'all. Yeah, Chrissy, this case kind of snuck up on us, and then basically last minute they're like, "We're not going to be showing it." And so, but I was so dying to hear what was going to happen with it. I was just like, "Well, we're going to be just going through the updates at nighttime. we're gonna follow it as we can." Okay. I mean, again, it's so interesting. Oh wait, here we go. Shibadoo-doo. Doobadoo-doo. Doobadoo-doo. Okay, this is their like beginning song, I guess. This is their hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad song. Do y'all hear that? Shibadoo-badoo. Doo-doo-be-da. A-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. Wait, what is that music that went viral on TikTok before that was like from like my time, like that I'm talking about, the whole music that used to be on everything. Oh, you know what? Speaking of, I got my my Nintendo NES reissue hooked up today. I was playing Mario Brothers. It was so much fun. I haven't seen Slow in the chat, Sandy. I hope he's doing well. So here's the thing. What is her name? Gypsy Rose's mom, Dee Dee Blanchard. So like, look at all the drama and the skin around that. Hold on, I'm gonna have to hold on. This is a lot of control. That's getting crazy. We'll change it when they come back. I mean, usually like with these pathological liars, like just I mean, their behavior, it's all over. So the arson thing doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. Yeah, so y'all can't see this. But this new chair that I got has this like footrest. It's almost like if you think of a barber chair, the way that it has the thing out or whatever, but obviously not as nice as a barber chair. And I've got it pulled out with a little thing here. This is really comfortable. Because I was like, I want like some kind of a not huge chair that I can stream in like trials and kind of just be like planted for a minute. And I'm feeling pretty good about it. Oh wait, Chrissy says Diddy is being sentenced on Friday. Are they going to air it or no? Oh, Jesse, you're doing a Mario theme for Halloween. That'll be so much fun. Yeah, this is fun. Like my feet are kicked up. I'm like, I'm ready to do some faxing and filing today, everybody. It doesn't have it like so. Are you talking about a literal like massage thing that actually can massage you? No, it does not have that, but it does have this little pillow. See, I can do this. Did y'all see? Okay, so Dr. Barry told me about this today in the comment section. And so I immediately went and looked, and I was like, hello, yes, I'll make a video about this. Did y'all see that that guy who confessed to murdering his parents in the TV interview? And then they arrested him outside the news station. And then then the same reporter interviewed him in his orange suit. It's crazy. I was like, what are you like, he was like trying to play it off like they were investigating him because he was getting those social security checks. And oh, is it Mayla's birthday? I don't see your name, but I see everybody saying happy birthday to you. Happy birthday or happy early birthday. Wait, Christy says I haven't heard that they're airing it, unfortunately, but you know how much I hate him. I know, right? I'm very interested to see what sentence he gets. So, but he yeah, he did this interview and he had confessed to killing them, and then he was collecting their checks, and they were investigating him for like, why are these dead people still getting checks or whatever, and you know, whatever. And he's trying to be like, yes, Stephanie says he's trying to convince us he's right. Exactly, yeah, right. It's like he's like, well, you know, they were begging me to die. I'm like, seriously? No. He's so clearly, and like when the dude interviewed him I can't wait to chop the video up and make a commentary on it. When the dude was asking him about whatever, and he's like, well, people are saying this, and the defendant goes, well, thank you for giving me that perspective or that intel or whatever, like whatever he said. I was like, oh, this guy's immediately like forming his story with this information. He's like literally sitting here being like, oh, that's what people are saying, okay, well, I'll change it to this over here. You know, it's so obvious what he did. It's just like, dude. But the whole thing, I was just like, people are getting creative out here. Okay, people are getting creative. People are looking for their moment, okay, over some real bad stuff. It's like he could have simply gone and turned himself in at the local jail and been like, yeah, I killed my parents. I just want to, like, you know, go ahead and arrest me. But he's going to go get all dramatic. Yeah, Emily didn't have a very fun birthday this year. I'm sorry. COVID didn't. I mean, my heart aches for you. I hope you're doing better. I don't know what's taking them so long. Maybe they're going over on the thing. So for anybody just joining, we're basically just waiting for this. We've already read through the daily updates, but now we're waiting to hear it from the reporter that's there. And so we're just kind of doing a standby for live. We're doing a standby. That is right. Stand by all through the night. Oh, you're right. Chrissy says he was talking about how all boomers are old now and his parents were losing their sight and other stuff. He didn't want them to live like that. Absolute psycho. And what was funny too about that is he used the term boomers. Like just a couple of snippets that I heard of it, like walking back and forth while I was like snagging the video. I was like, huh? I was like, did he really just say boomers? I'm like, these are just not. No, if he's trying to convince us that this was like justified or that there was like a legit thing, like yeah. Elissimo, am I saying your name right? Elissimo is saying he's loving the attention. Absolutely, he was lapping it up like a dog in the water dish. Okay, I'm talking. Yeah, Leslie says he's as unstable as that hairline. Well, the way he also just smiled, right? And Megan says, dude looks like the boomer. That's what I was thinking, right? Where I was just like, how old is he? Like, he's over here talking about, like, you know, all these boomers, they're just like taking up resources. I don't think he said that, but it's literally the vibe he was given. Okay. It is freezing cold all of a sudden. What's going on? I need that blankie over there, but the chair is so comfortable. Oh, the predicaments we end up in. Oh, the predicaments. And I was burning up earlier. Everybody's like, thank you. You know who he reminded me of? Okay, this is a very niche here. Very niche. Do y'all remember A Christmas Story when they're in line and the kid who's like that kind of weird kid, is supposed to be, and he has the big goggle glasses on and he keeps turning around to talk to the blonde kid. I can't remember his name. I want to say Mikey, but that's not it. And he's like, he's like, and he didn't want to talk to him. And he ends up screaming when he puts him on Santa's lap and he pushes him down the thing. Oh, here we go. Hold on. It's on mute. Hold on.
Of Sarah Hartsfield's murder trial here in Chambers County. A lot of medical testimony that got into court today that we listened to for several hours. We heard from 2 different doctors. We also heard from a nurse as well as a paramedic that responded to the scene when Joseph Hartsfield was found unresponsive. We also heard from the 911 dispatch supervisor. So a lot of testimony that got in. A big day in court once again. We do have our legal expert and a defense attorney not connected to this case, Rick Toto. He's joining us live from the studio back in Houston. Rick, thanks so much for being with us once again.
Good to see you again. How you doing?
Good. Another long day. And I think, really some of the evidence, some of the questions that people have had about this case have really kind of started to come to light based on what we heard with the medical testimony today. I do want to mention, by the way, while we're here on YouTube, I think we have the live chat going. So if anyone has any questions while we're getting through this, please pop those in the chat and we can try to answer some of them at the end. But I do have a lot of questions for Rick, first of all, here. And Rick, I want to ask you because obviously, the attorneys on both sides, the prosecutor and the defense, they're looking at the medical records in this case. They're the same records. I mean, it's not like they have different sets of records that they are looking at. And we kind of saw a really different approach to both of them. So from the state, they're saying that Joseph Hartsfield always wanted his sugar level to be high. He didn't like to have a low sugar level, also known as hypoglycemia. He didn't like that, basically. And they say that there's no reason that he would have, injected himself with too much insulin because that was just a feeling that he did not like. We also then heard from the defense saying that Joseph Hartsfield never really followed the doctor's orders when it came to managing his diabetes. He had it for at least about 25 years, I think was the math that was roughly calculated. And so since he didn't manage it, the defense is trying to make the point that, well, if he wasn't keeping up with it the way that he should have been and listening to what the doctor said, well, then he could have ended up with some pretty severe complications from that. So, Rick, obviously, I don't know all the background of the jurors who are listening to this, but I think there are certain things that, of course, they're going to understand. And then there are other medical things that they just may not understand. So what of that evidence may be sticking for the jury as they hear some of this really in-depth sciencey and medicine-related testimony?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something that we struggle with as lawyers, to take complicated medical information or expert testimony and break it down to be able to present it to a jury so they can understand it and follow our position in the case. I think there's 2 things that the lawyers have to do. Number one, they have to meet with their experts and talk with them and get to know them and their personality, and stress to them that they have to teach. They have to be teachers in the courtroom, and they have to act like the jury is in their first day of college going to, some type of medical class, and break it down in very simple terms and explain to them in very simple terms what they're trying to get across. Number 2, I think the experts following number 1 have to use diagrams. They have to have some sort of pictures or charts or something that the jury can put all the evidence together and kind of see it and see how it plays out. So I don't know if that exactly applies in this case, but it's very typical in the battle of the experts. There's 2 extreme sides. The prosecution says one thing, the defense says the other. And it's difficult to figure out what the jury decides. I think we as lawyers, have to make sure that they understand the information to start with, and then we kind of go from there.
And when we're talking about a case like this, where there are so many discrepancies over what happened, and there's really no clear understanding about exactly who injected that insulin, because there was no one there and there was no surveillance video. It was just the couple in the house. I'm just curious, that has to make it kind of difficult when they're hearing both sides. You know what I'm saying? They're hearing from both the defense and the state, and the with so many confusing concepts, it just seems like it has to be something kind of hard for the jury to wrap their head around. Even I'm having a hard time sitting there and trying to process everything.
Yes, sir. And I think the best way to put it is discrepancies and no clear information equal reasonable doubt. It's that simple. The prosecution has the burden. They carry the burden. They have to prove to the jurors beyond a reasonable doubt what happened. And it sounds like they're not able to do that at this point. And you're expressing, I think, maybe what the jury might be thinking is they don't understand what's going on, what happened. Did he take care of himself? Did he not take care of himself? What the cause of death is. And that's exactly what we want to happen in terms of the jury finding the person not guilty in reasonable doubt. So I think what I'm trying to say is I think that plays in favor of the defense.
So we did see one of those charts and graphs that you mentioned from the state today. They brought in a big chart and basically showed what Joseph Hartsfield's glucose monitor showed as he was experiencing this really low blood sugar level. It appears that his blood sugar may have been dangerously low for about 20 hours, from 6 o'clock one evening all the way until around 2 o'clock the following afternoon, which is when apparently that 911 call was made and medics then responded and he got rushed to the hospital. So there was a big chart for the jury to see and kind of monitor what his glucose level was doing. There's a question, though, about some alerts. And so for people who aren't familiar, there's what's called a Dexcom, which monitors, you can actually see some of the data there on the screen showing those graphs. The glucose monitor, it's a Dexcom, and it provides kind of some real-time monitoring data about a blood sugar level. And in this case, there's some question about if he would have been able to even hear those alerts when his sugar level was so dangerously low. And then also there's a question about if Sarah heard those alerts, because her defense attorneys claimed that she was actually recovering from her own surgery and on medication, and she wasn't able to, be of any help to Joe when he was dealing with this. She actually sent us a message from jail that I want to show. This was back in 2023. In that message to KPRC2, she said that she didn't ignore his Dexcom alerts. I was on my own pain regimen in another room after having another surgery. Joe knew I couldn't do anything for him. I was sleeping most of the day and night. My question here is what legal duty, if she did in fact hear and get those alerts, what legal duty might she have had to help him in that moment?
So the question, I believe, is, was she a caretaker of the deceased? Did she have a duty to, as you discussed, respond to those alerts and help him? I do not believe, it's just my opinion, that she was a caretaker in this case. She may have had a moral obligation to help him and try to take him to the hospital or administer medication or see what was going on. I don't think she had a legal duty under the definition of the law of a caretaker. Number two, her being under... Well,
let me just...
Go ahead.
One thing on that, when you're talking about the caretaker, because we did hear some testimony that she was actually pretty involved in his medical appointments and, actually called a doctor one time after he had been on a virtual appointment with her, with that doctor. And Sarah called the doctor. That doctor testified afterwards to kind of correct some of the information that Joseph had told the doctor. Does that make her a caretaker? Is she suddenly more involved, and does that add to her legal obligation?
I don't think it does, but I think that's a question the jury's gonna have to decide. I think it's a wife trying to help her husband with his medical issues, but I don't think under the legal definition in the state of Texas, and again, it's just my opinion, that she was a caretaker in terms of criminal responsibility at the time. Secondly, if she's under the influence of some pain medication or something that affects her ability to react or hear, or she's sleeping, that makes it even more complicated. So for example, you could be a caretaker, but if you just had surgery and you're taking a strong, sleeping medication or pain medication that affects your ability to respond to those alerts, that complicates it more, and it may take you out of culpability.
We did see actually some of her medical records in court today. Her defense attorney presented those, and it showed the medications that she had been prescribed, at least. But then kind of the caveat to that was that the state kind of said, well, we don't know for sure that she was taking those medications. Just because she was prescribed them, there's a question there. So that was one thing. There's still a lot of questions about these alerts and whether or not she acted as she, I guess, may have been obligated to, or if she even heard them. When showing some of this literal data from the medical devices, how effective do you think that is for a jury?
It's probably not very effective unless there's some clear explanation of the data. So just showing data points and complicated medical records and information from machines is very boring for juries, and they quickly tune out. You have to give them something to hold on to that they can understand. And again, that's where the diagrams come in. But even if the diagrams are too complicated, contain, legalese or medical terms that they don't understand, it's probably not that effective. And we see in trials a lot of times when the prosecutors are putting on complicated evidence with data points, you can see the jurors looking off into the hallway, kind of leaning back, rolling their eyes. So it's usually not effective unless you add to it and make it dynamic for them to hold on to something.
Yeah, just in watching, some of the jury's reactions to it, did seem like the medical information, maybe they were sighing at certain points or trying to really look in at their screen so they could see what exactly they were being presented. One question that we got from the YouTube live chat is why this trial is not being broadcasted live. And I'm sure as a defense attorney, you do have a lot of opinions about that. I will say, before all of this, KPRC2 News and Dateline filed some documents with the court trying to get full access to live stream the trial, and the judge ultimately was the decider in this case, and he has agreed to have one camera shared among all the media outlets inside of the courtroom. He is not allowing any sort of audio recording, and that is not until the closing arguments as well as the verdict. And then if we get to the punishment phase, the judge has said that he may, reconsider those audio rules. Again, that's if we get to the punishment phase. What's your take, by the way, on live streaming a trial, especially with such interest as this? And I should mention, with alleged victims that are connected to her who don't live in this state that the state is trying to bring up during this?
Personally, I think it's great. I think it brings sunlight to the courtroom and the public gets to see everything. And it educates the public on the criminal justice process. But I think the concern that the court has is that in high profile cases in general, and when there's cameras around, people sometimes act different. So a witness may testify differently based on knowing that the information they testify to is going to be broadcast to the world and may affect their ability to testify effectively. So the court is concerned with the defendant having a fair trial and not letting cameras in the courtroom affect the demeanor or testimony of the witnesses. Again, I think it's great. I think it should be part of all the processes in the trials. But I understand the court's concern, and that's probably why the court limited the media's access in this case, just like they do in most cases.
One of the things that we've talked about throughout this, Rick, is the fact that there is no medical examiner's ruling here in this case. Of course, the cause has been determined as complications of toxic effects of insulin. That's how Joseph Hartsfield died. But the manner, which we should note, is like homicide, suicide, accidental. I think there's a few very limited options for what the manner could be. One of the questions that Sarah's defense attorney asked today was if people commit suicide by insulin. And the doctor responded to that question saying that it wasn't really something that she had heard of. She guesses that it could be a possibility, but it did seem kind of extreme. How can the state prove that, a suicide is not what happened here?
They can't. They can't prove it, just like they can't prove the manner or means as to what happened. My concern with that question is that it kind of looks like you're throwing stuff against the wall to kind of see if it sticks. Maybe the defense lawyer is trying to give alternate reasons as to what happened and to show that the state further can't prove what actually happened. But I agree with you. It's a little bit extreme. When the notes you sent me and I read that, I was like, wow, that's an interesting question. It opens up a can of worms, but it may just be the defense lawyer trying to prove different ways this could have happened, and the state can't disprove it, thus reasonable doubt, thus not guilty.
That'll definitely be an interesting question because, again, the manner was left undetermined. But we are expecting the medical examiner who actually was involved in that autopsy. I actually saw her get sworn in inside the courtroom today. So we are expecting that she'll testify at some point here in the coming days. But I hear what you're saying about that. I want to know also, though, because the family testified yesterday, actually, and they said that, they believed that Sarah Hartsfield may have, been involved in some foul play with Joseph's death. They believed that maybe she was trying to kill him based on the statements that they had heard from their brother Joseph and their son Joseph when he was still alive. Does that testimony maybe rebut that possible suicide mention that the defense attorney brought up today?
It does a little bit. I think the jury will take that in consideration. But the most important thing you said is may. No one really knows. Okay, it's the decedent saying this happened. There's no exact evidence of it, and they're just kind of, in my mind, speculating as to what happened. Obviously, they don't like the defendant. They're trying to put the defendant in prison. They're testifying against the defendant, so they're going to be biased. So I would bring out in closing argument, part of what I would say was, they keep saying it may be, but there's nothing to prove that it was or it wasn't. And we get right back to the definition of reasonable doubt and a not guilty. So I think that's kind of speculation, in my opinion.
Okay. Switching gears just a little bit, because I want to ask you, you've been in courtrooms before, you've been in these big trials, the 911 calls. First of all, are those usually played in a high-profile criminal trial like this?
Yeah, absolutely. And typically they're pretty dramatic. They're stuff that jurors want to hear because it's the person's voice and the emotion and whatever at the time it happened or shortly after. So I think jurors put a lot of trust into those statements.
Yeah, well, we did hear the 911 call in this case today. Again, there's some argument that prosecutors say that, Sarah Hartsfield may have delayed calling 911 for at least an hour after finding Joseph unresponsive. Her defense says that, she was on her own pain regimen and recovering at that point, like we've mentioned. But in that 911 call, I did want to mention that we could hear Sarah tell the dispatcher that she could not get her husband to wake up, that he was breathing really heavy, and that it's like he was not there. Really, she was pretty direct and to the point when she was talking with that dispatcher. But then the dispatcher said, "And who are you? What's your name, ma'am?" And that's when we started to hear some of the emotion. It appeared that at that point she might have started crying on the other end of the line. And she said, "I'm Sarah." How much does someone's demeanor matter in one of those 911 calls? And how much does the jury really listen and take that into account?
So I think in the courtroom, it matters because the prosecution is going to say, for example, that early on in the call, she showed no emotion. She's cold-blooded and then she realized what she did and she got emotion. I think in real life, it's very difficult to tell how someone's going to react in a certain situation. I think we expect people to be hysterical and emotional and crying and screaming on the phone on a 911 call. But until you're in that situation, until you're on the phone calling, you don't know how you're going to react. And we try to get that across the juries because there's always going to be the argument that there's emotion or there's no emotion on one side and the same on the other. But a determination has to be made of the person's personality. What are they like? What is their demeanor? So I think overall it does affect juries because the prosecutors typically point it out and people expect you to have emotion because they've never really been in that situation before. And it's what they see on TV and in movies.
Right. Yeah, kind of that little true crime feeling to it when you actually get to hear the 911 call you want to hear in that moment. And I should mention, just in listening to it, there's a little bit of background noise going on and things. It's, I think recorded in the dispatch center and you can hear kind of some other things. And so to get an exactly clear picture of exactly what her voice sounded like, I don't know that you could say for sure, just because of some of the other noises that we were hearing. We did not see her arrive with the Bible to court this morning, by the way. I know we talked about that yesterday, but it did appear that she had the Bible sitting on the table in front of her during everything. I wanted to ask you about something else because we did see her. We've seen her several days now, really intently taking notes at certain points based on some of the testimony that she's heard. And she seems to be really actively involved where she'll be leaning over and whispering to one of the defense attorneys or the investigator and, her team, whispering certain things to them or maybe suggesting that they ask the witness on the stand something that she thinks needs to be asked. I personally know that she's had a lot to say about what happened and what didn't happen with some of those messages that she sent from jail. Based on kind of what we've seen so far and based on kind of what we know about her ability or I guess need to communicate, what do you think that says about the possibility of her testifying?
So the first thing the public needs to understand is it's her decision. It's the client's decision whether or not to testify. As a lawyer, we can give strong advice to or to not testify. But at the end of the day, they make that decision. And, you know, if they decide to testify, we go forward. Based on everything you've said so far and everything I've seen, I believe she wants to testify. Will her lawyer be able to talk her out of that? I don't know. But when you put the defendant on the stand, the whole focus of the trial changes. It's directly on the focus is on her, on the defendant. And if the jury believes she's being deceptive about anything, it's over. All the hard work you've got up to that point, everything you've done as cross-examination, all the evidence you put on. If the jury does not believe her, it could be a minor point. It could be something that's not really related to the case. But in my opinion, if they believe she's being deceptive, case is over. They're going to find her guilty. So it's risky, but it's the client's decision to do it. I think you're right. She probably wants to testify. We'll see if she does.
If you were her lawyer at this point, Rick, what would you tell her the best reason would be to testify and maybe the worst reason? I know you said that it could put all that hard work aside, but I'm just curious, like maybe she thinks she has something that the jury really needs to hear from her, that she can convince them of something.
So based on her previous statements and what I know about this case, I would strongly advise her not to testify. And I would tell her there is no good reason for you to testify. I think it would be, in this case, a disaster. It would just be a very brutal cross-examination. I think the prosecutors have enough information to keep her up there for hours and pick at her and pick at her. So my advice would be not to testify. And part of that is there's a huge hole in the case. If I was doing closing argument in this case, I would hold up the indictment and I'd call it a donut. There's a big hole in it. So you don't need to testify. The state hasn't proven their case. They can't prove their case. They haven't carried the burden. So why risk it? Let's go forward and ask for a not guilty.
One last thing I want to ask you, because this was not in our talks ahead of time, but I'm curious because throughout this case, we obviously did the documentary, The Two Sides of Sarah. That was before this trial even started. And we traveled around and we spoke with some of her, the people from her past, some of the exes, her foster mother, one of her children. And those are some of the people who are actually on the witness list, and they are expected to testify here at some point during the trial. What they'll be able to say, we still don't know. You know, they expressed when we interviewed them and when we talked with them that they felt that there were so many things over the years that she has been able to get away with or talk her way out of, that they just don't feel like she has ever been held accountable. And the fact that all of them are on this witness list and showing up here, some of them from out of town, many of them actually from out of town, it's almost like they feel like this might be their opportunity for justice as well. Like, understandably, this is Joseph Hartsfield's trial, or it's related to Joseph Hartsfield's death. It's a trial for that. But some of them, I don't know, they might just feel the sense that they need justice as well. I don't know. As a defense attorney, I know that might be a hard thing to think about, but I've heard from these people. I've talked with them personally, and I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
I get it, but from a legal standpoint, as a lawyer and a defense lawyer defending a client such as this, the first question is some of those are extraneous offense testimony. So is the judge going to allow that in? I don't think it should come in, but obviously it's not my decision. But the defense lawyer has to zealously argue to keep that stuff out. Also, some of the other evidence you've talked about is character evidence, and character evidence that the person acted within that character. I don't think that comes in either unless she testifies. So for some of those witnesses to come in and say she's a bad person, she cheats on her taxes, whatever, I don't think any of that is relevant in this case until either the defense opens the door or she testifies in terms of character evidence. The extraneous offense stuff, again, it's going to be up to the judge and there's going to be arguments on both sides, but all that matters is what the jury hears in the courtroom. I understand your position. I understand you talk to them, but that's what the rules of evidence are for, to decide what the jury hears and make a decision solely on that.
Yeah, no, and that's really not my position, just to be clear. I mean, it's just I've heard that from them, and I feel like hearing that, it's just a question that comes to mind. You know, we talked with them, we spent hours with them when we went and interviewed them, and so I was just curious about that. I see a note that we had a couple other questions on the YouTube Live asking, do we know what prescription drugs were detected in Joseph's system? So the testimony that we have heard about the drug so far is that they were some sort of benzodiazepine. We don't know exactly which one. That hasn't really been revealed. We know that Sarah had been prescribed several things at the end of that surgery when she was discharged from the hospital just before all of this happened. But Joseph's family has said that he really didn't like taking any sort of medications, and they didn't know him to have a prescription for any sort of benzo. So that's really as much of the testimony as we have seen. And also another question, were there additional drugs in Joseph's system? So there has been a lot of testimony just speaking to that in addition to the insulin, there was a benzo. And, even today, some questions came up about when he may have gotten that benzo. Was it from EMS when they were transporting him to the hospital for some reason? It doesn't appear that it happened at the hospital, because that nurse testified that everything would have been documented in the patient's records. So still a lot of questions there as well. Rick, is there any final thoughts that you have? I mean, it's day 3. We got through several more witnesses today. It was just 2 yesterday. I believe we had 4 today, plus wrapping up 1 from yesterday. So it's moving along. Any final thoughts?
Well, it's a very interesting case, and I'm very interested in seeing how the prosecution is going to tie this together so the jury can buy it or agree that she's a murderer. I don't see anything at this point that shows that she's culpable for him dying or that she was a caretaker. So I want to see what they're thinking and how they tie that together. Very important testimonies coming up with the medical examiner, and I think the cross-examination is going to be fierce on that.
The medical examiner for sure, and also the messages, because there's a lot of messages that we haven't seen. I know we talked about that last night, about what may be in the messages and how that may catch someone, because you never know when those messages are going to get read. But listen, we've been outside of this courthouse since it was like dawn this morning. The sun was still coming up, and now it's gone down. So I think that's going to be all for this YouTube Live. Thank you so much for just helping us understand, again, some of these big concepts. I know a lot of people are following this case closely and wanting to know what will end up happening with it. So Rick, thank you. And I know you're going to be gone for a couple days. We will check in with you again, and I'll keep sending you all my notes from court.
Yes, sir. Get some rest.
Okay, so, y'all, let's talk real quick. Do y'all think, and again, this is very early. Well, let's do a little, hold on. Let's do a little poll. Let's take it to the jury. The Sofa Squad jury. Hold on. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. I thought it was going to be easy. I'm all over the place as usual. Hold on. I'm trying to do a little poll. Okay, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm clicking on 2 live streams ago. Okay, now let's do this. Start a poll. Please help. Thank you. I put the lights on strobe. Let's take it to the streets. So I think that the guy that's talking, the lawyer that's talking, brings up really good points. And it's interesting to hear. And I love hearing from different perspectives, the viewpoints, because, he's obviously coming from this defense level, and he's like, look, there's this whole big opening, hole here that they're missing. They can't get a conviction. They can't fill in the blanks. And this is true. And this is where it's like, it's just going to depend on that jury. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to completely depend on that jury and what they think. And obviously there's so much more to go, right? So we'll have to see what comes up. But yeah, and Leslie, you were saying have them pull the VA records for her thing. I think that would be a great pull. Yeah, pull her medical record. What is she taking? What is she on? What are the doses? Because I do think it's one of those, like, wink, wink. What we all know what really happened, but what can they show? I don't need this anymore. What can they show in court? This one has me a little bit like nervous in that way. I don't know where'd y'all go. So far, we got 53% for no. So no is winning out. And again, this is very obviously early, right? It'll be interesting to kind of do another poll as it gets a little bit deeper into it. Yeah, Justice says, when I heard also see if they could check out what she had left in her RX bottles. Like, did she actually take those meds she was given? Yeah. Because again, I don't believe for 1 second that she didn't hear that thing. She wouldn't know. She didn't this. Now, another thing that he's bringing up that is true, and this, he really hit the nail on the head, is, was she legally a caretaker? No. Morally, yes. She has an obligation. But hold on. Yeah, well, there's that. So there's that. So it'll be curious because, technically, yes, she's not legally his caretaker. She's not responsible for that. But morally, I mean, it's your husband. He's nervous about it. The whole thing is they can't prove who gave him what. Now again, who would seem the most likely person to do that? Well, obviously. But they can't prove that. And they have history of all documented evidence from his doctor saying he is non-compliant. He doesn't do A, B, and C. This will work to the defense's benefit. Mind you, on their side, you have the Captain Obvious. Your husband is weird about falling beneath. He's very paranoid about falling beneath a certain number, this, that, and the other. Da, 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 da. All the behavior that goes with it, but is it enough to, because the defense could easily just sit here and say, hey, look, we're not trying to say she's nice. A lot of y'all might not like her. Yes, she kept them away during the funeral. Yes, she did this. That doesn't mean that she killed him. It just means that she's not a nice person. You know what I mean? Like, I can hear the closing arguments in my head. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. We'll see. If there is somebody who I would love to see on the stand, it would be her. She is pining to testify. I mean, she is all but hold my beer. Hey, that detective, excuse me. The only update I know is that people are posting Donna Adelson's leaving the courtroom to go to the paddy wagon. And she's like, oh, please, somebody. You're going to have to lift me into the back of the paddy wagon. I might need a McFlurry. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, Megan's sending replies to the dang news station. Yeah, she's sending these replies to the news station. Honey, she wants to take that stand. Okay, like her life depends on it, because it does. So she's going to get up there. She's like, look, I've gotten this far. She's like, okay, look, I've killed 3 people before and done this. Okay, I know what I'm doing. Let me get on the stand for real. Y'all just watch. I can get out of this. I can get out of this one too. And you know what? She might be right. Some of these crazy people like this, they know how to talk their way out of some big stuff, right? It's a challenge. It's like, okay, I really stepped into this time, but you hold my beer and just watch me work. We'll be driving home at 10 o'clock tonight if you just let me get up there. Okay, you'll be dropping me off at Mickey D's for a McFlurry. I love that. M says, I painted Paul as a literal sofa. Am I being too weird? Hey, no, because I've kind of become one with the chair. Like, this is actually really comfortable. This is an Amazon chair. Now, mind you, it's on day 2. Let's see how it does with me sitting here with my 200 pounds slopped all over it for however long. Oh, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, so we're gonna head out because I'm formally rejecting. I'm getting too comfortable in this chair. I'm like, the pillows really is what doing it. I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? So I have, and I don't know what you call this, but it's an all-in-one. So it's like a computer screen that has a computer built into it. You know what I'm talking about? It's like my old computer. I've got to pull it out. I really want to try and get it set up to live stream from that so I can have like 2 things going. I don't know. I'm going to have to play with it. It's a nice chair. It really is. Thank you, Dominique. I would love to have said that my children bought it for me, but they didn't. I would have loved to have said I got it for Mother's Day, but I didn't. Nope, don't know what that's like. They were too busy with the TVs and Hitman. I'll just eat the burnt hamburger. That's okay. I'm used to it. I know Donna has taken over. I'm not going to ever be able to break character. She just doesn't get a little powder puff. I don't know why that sounds so funny to me, powder puff. Oh, that's awesome, Chrissy. Harvey. Oh, Harvey. So, y'all, I'm going to head out. I'm just in here reading your comments and stuff. So, again, same time, same place tomorrow. We'll go live. We'll read the updates. We'll see what he has to say. This is a nice little situation we got going, right? So we'll just see how all that goes. And then again, my guess, I'm going to go ahead and call it now. The closing arguments and verdict, whatever you want to call it for this, will coincide with something major in the Brian Walsh trial. So like opening statements, Brian Walsh, and this will happen to go right over that. And it's like, what do you do in this scenario? Where do we go from here? I trust we'll figure it out. So anyways, that is it. Thank you, mods, for being here, for keeping these cushions fluffed, for keeping everything going. I appreciate it. Thank you, squad, for being here. Chrissy, I'm glad to see your face, you know what I'm saying? And I hope your surgery goes well. And I hope everybody's doing well out there. I'll post a live at some point tomorrow, but it'll be for 7 o'clock on this channel tomorrow evening. So yeah, there's that. But thank y'all once again. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't, pretty please. The QR codes for today's video on the main channel. Go on and check it out. See what you think. We're getting pretty fancy. Getting kind of credentialed up in here with the QR codes. I'm just kind of saying. But we'll close out with Slow's Ode to the Sofa. And I hope y'all have sweet dreams. And I love you. And I'll see you tomorrow.
The pillows are fluff thanks to Miss Emily. The couch is wide enough. Join the family. It's all love while we laugh at first criminalities. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup at hey, 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 come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. Oh, please, the puppies need me. Oh, oh, please, my body is rejecting none of that fancy credential stuff. I'm just here for the cringe binge. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sip it from the cup and hey, 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 come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. Oh please, but puppies need me. Oh please, my body is rejecting none of that fancy credentialed stuff. I'm just here for the cringe binge. Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sip it from the cup that hey, 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 come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.